Hello everyone, welcome to today's class, and our title today is Passing of Pigcasso. Pigcasso. Let's move on to language focus. Alright. 1번. Instead of ending up on braai, I believe it's pronounced, a South African barbecue grill, they were taken to an animal sanctuary where they got a nice room with plenty of toys. So we use end up with the preposition to describe an eventual or final destination. Okay? So end up은 like plus 전치사 결국 뭐뭐 하게 되다. 때로는 예상치 못한 결과. So again, the end up with a preposition to describe an eventual or final destination. Let's have a look at our very first example. If you don't respect the local laws when you're overseas, you might end up in jail. So what does this mean? It means 해외에 있을 때 현지 법은 안 따르면 감옥에 갈 수도 있습니다. So you might end up in jail. 갈 수도 있습니다. Or our next example, Paul ended up on TV after his talent was discovered. So Paul의 재능이 발견된 후 결국 TV에 나오기 시작했다. He ended up on TV. So it's not always just a negative situation. It can also be a positive situation. So yes, to describe eventual or final destination. Let's move on to 2번 now. 2번. A signed copy of Picasso's Penguin will run you about $15,000. Okay, so we use run you to state the approximate price of something. It means the same as cost. So basically we're saying run you는 cost 쪽과 같아요. 값이 비용이 뭐뭐이다 둘다. Right. So for me personally, I don't use this expression. I think it's more of maybe an American expression. However, it's still something to learn. So example, an apartment in Seoul will run you about $1 million. So 서울에 있는 아파트는 약 $100만 들 거예요. Which is insane, however very true. Or a trip to the dentist in Korea will run you about 50,000 Korean won. So 한국에서 치과 치료 비용은 약 5만 원 정도 들 거예요. So 50,000 won is actually quite cheap if you compare it to other countries. Alright, now let's look at the language focus quiz. 1번. If you you might end up in So remember, if we scroll back up to end up, we went past it here, it'll use end up with a preposition to describe an eventual or final destination. So remember, end up은 뭐 전치사 결국 하게 되다, or 때론 예상치 못한 결과. So 1번 we'll say if you you might up So if you keep oopsie daisies keep arguing with your wife, you might end up in the doghouse. Now, what does it mean? I should say the doghouse. What does it mean by the doghouse? So it's kind of a common situation with couples, especially after that they sort of have an argument. So what it basically means is a bad situation because someone is angry at one person, or you're in trouble. But let me write it down. but I'll tell you when we use it. So in a bad situation, because someone is angry at one. Usually used with husbands and wives. More so her wives being mad at husbands. Not always, but sometimes. That's a new expression for you to learn today. Alright, 2번. Ended up on TV because of Alright, so example, let's keep it simple. Like, she ended up on TV because of her viral internet video. So 그녀의 온라인 영상 화제 덕분에 그녀가 결국 TV에 나오게 됐어요. So viral usually means very popular on the internet. You'll see it often used in many situations, sort of like on social media platforms. 3번. Will run you 7 million won. 7 million won. So what's that? About 8,000 US dollars, I think. So, you remember run is another word for cost. So what will cost around 7 million won? Let's say a good camera will run you several million won. So 좋은 카메라는 몇백만 원 정도 들 수 있습니다. And 4번, won't run you more than a decent meal in Korea won't run you more than a couple of thousand Korean won. So 한국에서 푸짐한 한 끼는 몇천 원 넘지 않을 거예요. Because Korea is actually quite cheap. You don't have to spend a lot of money. Alright, now let's look at the further discussion. 1번. In addition to art, what are some good ways to channel a naughty child's energy? 미술 외에도 산만한 아이의 에너지를 돌릴 수 있는 좋은 방법은 무엇일까요? Sport. Something that they're interested in. I know that I was sort of a naughty child growing up, and so what I did was do a lot of sport that kept me out of trouble. I did basketball. I boxed. So I think the best way to channel some good energy into a naughty child, naughty being bad behaved, is to put them in some sort of sports, especially martial arts, because you become mature once you learn martial arts, in my opinion, because they teach you discipline. They teach you, that you don't have to use your hands to win a fight. They teach you self-defense so that you can be a bit more confident in life. That's sort of the thing that I learned when I was learning boxing. And like I said, I was a naughty child, so it was one of the ways I expelled my energy, my naughty energy. 2번. In the last paragraph, the author suggests that uncomfortable realizations are sometimes a good thing. Can you think of any examples of this? 마지막 단락의 저자는 이런 제안을 합니다. 때론 불편한 깨달음은 좋을 때가 있다. 이와 유사한 다른 예시는 무엇이 있을까요? Uncomfortable realizations. I guess realizations are usually uncomfortable, aren't they, at some point? Because you didn't think of it at the first time, so it's kind of a shock to you. Realizations usually mean that you've been surprised by something. So I think in most cases they're sort of uncomfortable. Can I think of any examples of this? I guess let's talk about relationships. Okay, sometimes you're in a relationship, and at the time that you're in the relationship, you think it's amazing. But let's say then you break up, and then you realize that that relationship wasn't great at all for you. It was unhealthy. It was damaging. Example. That's just an example. That could be an uncomfortable realization, which happens to a lot of people. Maybe even you at home as well. Okay, so that wraps it up for today's class, and I'll see you on the next class.
Hog.
Hog.
Grateful.
Grateful.
Channel.
Channel.
Constructive.
Constructive.
Abstract.
Abstract.
Compassionate.
Compassionate.